Welcome to the Preferred Walk-On Show. I'm your host, Seth Saunders, joined by a very special guest today, a return guest. Our friend Chris Fallica is back with us today. He is the host of the Bears Bet podcast. He is also on Big Noon Kickoff, and he has all of the best information as it pertains to this weekend. Very, very exciting slate of games. Bear, great to see you again. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, great to see you as well. Certainly a little bit of a topsy-turvy start to the year with the with the rankings and a lot of unexpected results for certain teams, and certain teams maybe looking like they might be a little bit better than we would have thought. So yeah, good surprise. It feels wide open, and that's great.
Wide open. Unbelievable, right? Like, I feel like it's been an awesome start to the season. And why don't we start with that? What has been the biggest surprise or biggest takeaway from you as we sit here right now walking into week 4?
I think the biggest surprise to me is just the lack of a gap or a lack of separation between, say, team 1, Ohio State, and team like 7, 8, 9. It feels like you could put any of those teams on a given field and you wouldn't be surprised with the result. And as bad as Texas has played offensively, they probably should have won I mean, they should have, but very easily could have won in Columbus week 1. So I think that type of surprise is a good thing. And I think, look, I was not high on Clemson coming into the year. I was an under 9.5 guy. I was kind of saying like whatever I could to like warn people like they weren't that good last year. This is a team that only got into the ACC title game because Miami blew a 21-0 lead
Correct.
at Syracuse. So it's like there were warning signs for me with Clemson. So that is not a surprise. But I think just how close we are at the top between all these teams is like there's not a gap at all.
Do you think that is a product of the changing landscape of college football, NIL, the transfer portal, where you go from, say, a Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State having a 3 deep that could go to the NFL, whereas now that talent is much more adequately spread across the country, and so week to week the talent gap is not as despair as it was before?
It absolutely is, and that's something that I wasn't sure how it necessarily was going to play out. I didn't know it would be this way. I thought maybe this would be a situation where the rich continually get richer, but it does seem like you've got newcomers like Texas Tech and Cody Campbell in that group willing to spend a ton of money. And also the other thing is how different programs and different teams have prioritized and strategized their use of the portal in accompaniment with their recruiting. A team like Miami, my alma mater, like they basically have, I don't want to say de-emphasized recruiting the quarterback position, but it's not a priority for them. They are more interested in building in the trenches, getting receivers and other positions like that, recruiting wise, and then bringing in a portal quarterback, year in and year out, like they did last year with Cam Ward, and then this year with Carson Beck. So I think that's probably going to be the plan for them moving forward, and you've seen it work well for them so far. And then on the flip, you've got a team like Florida who invested in recruiting DJ Lagway, and it hasn't necessarily gone to playing yet. So I'm curious to see if more schools kind of take a look and be like, yeah, but we can kind of wait on a quarterback and see who kind of pans out and see who kind of doesn't pan out, and maybe either get someone on the cheap or get someone in that 5th or 6th year.
Well, you bring up Cody Campbell and the Matador Collective, Matador Club, and all they did with Texas Tech to build that roster. Y'all are going to be there on Saturday. This is my favorite game of the week. I've had this circled. It's incredible. I've had it circled since the summer, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And so it kind of also parallels with one of my favorite storylines of the season thus far, and that's this package deal of the OCs and quarterbacks that has been fortuitous for a number of programs thus far, right? And I think in a lot of ways, this Devin Dampier and Beck connection in Utah, that package deal from New Mexico, boy, is that looking like it might pay dividends, gives them a dynamicism on offense that they just haven't had. And you always know with a Kyle Whittingham team, they're going to be strong up front. The defense will keep them in the ball game. You pair that with this offense, boy, they're spicy, I think, when it comes to looking at them from a long-term progression perspective. And then on the Texas Tech side, but to your point, they're the opposite of Miami, right? They spent all this money in the portal, and the one spot they don't spend money is at quarterback, which me as a dumb outsider am going, are we sure we want to roll with Baron Morton here? Looks like it's going to be okay.
Yeah, no, he is. It's interesting because I was really high on Utah after that. I thought they'd be the favorite in the league entering the year, and then you saw what they did to UCLA week one, and you're like, oh my god, this team is amazing. And then week two, week three goes on, and we see that UCLA might kind of stink,
Yeah.
and they do.
Yep.
So I've kind of tempered my expectations a little bit with Utah. You've got two teams obviously that haven't trailed this year, so obviously someone's going to be put in a position to try and come from behind. And talking to the people that I've talked to, kind of know a hell of a lot more about breaking down film and offense and studying players than I do. They kind of feel like Utah is a team that really needs to play from the lead because they're not quite convinced that Dampier and this offense can do it if they get down a score or two. So I would be inclined to take Texas Tech plus the points here. Is as miserable as I feel in doing it because I really like this Utah team and I don't want to jump off of them too early just because my opinion of UCLA has changed dramatically after that win because they are 3-0 and they had the little bit of a predictable look ahead spot last week at Wyoming, but they did win the game. Maybe for the best case of my conference future picks or whatever, let's go Utah by 3.
Well, I like this. I like this. So you'll still win with the Texas Tech and the points, but still picking
Yeah,
Utah to win. Yeah, I like that. That way we got both sides of the coin there, brother. See, this is how you know Bear is a vet. He's keeping everybody happy here. Oh,
have to.
that's
I don't want to get
outstanding.
yelled at in Salt Lake on Saturday. Enough
Exactly.
people don't like me already.
Yeah, well, let me touch on that with you. How excited are you for that environment? I mean, I just think it'll be electric and such a
Great.
measuring stick for both teams. Early kick, right? But I think
Yep.
that's part of the fun of it.
I thought you know this, but I don't think a lot of people nationally like that is one of the better home field advantages in the country. The must that they call the Mighty Utah student section. It's a really wild, rowdy bunch, and I'm curious to see how it is that early in the morning. But that altitude, that stadium, the fans are right on top of you. They got one of the better home field advantages in college football, and make sure you watch on Saturday because I'm sure it will be on full display.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. I'm so excited that y'all are going to be there. What a great opportunity for the conference to spotlight that game in the Big 12, which I've said, Bear, and it's kind of turning out that way. The Big 12, in a lot of ways, is rife with storylines. I think it's as wide open as any conference in America, and I think this is just the start of it. So I'm excited to see y'all show Saturday and excited to watch the ball game.
Yeah, before we move on from that, I'm glad you said that because I was looking up some stuff I just kind of mine data and look up stuff for my bear bites. And one of the things I actually was filtering through this morning, you look, Kansas State and Iowa State played in Dublin week one. Iowa State won a toss up type game. If you look at the time that these two teams have spent scoreboard tied this year, Iowa State been involved in a tie game for an hour and 21 minutes close of game time. Kansas State has been tied roughly for an hour and 13 minutes of game time. Iowa State's 4-0. Kansas State's 1-3. So that just goes to show you like the tight margins of like the coin flippy nature of the Big 12 and basically college football in general, like how close we are to maybe Kansas State being 4-0 and Iowa State being 1.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it, right? Is the margin is so small. And I think in a lot of ways, too, that's a commentary on college football as a whole now, is that you just got to be right. And you got to have things that fall your way. Man, that Iowa State team, I wish they were one of the ones on the docket this week because I'd love to talk to you about them. I love their makeup. I love Rocco Beck.
Well deserved idle week after the last couple of weeks they've had.
Yeah, 100%, man. Especially I feel like given them and the Kansas State program, that travel to Dublin to start the year, man, that's no small trip. And you kind of bring that back, got tired legs, all those things. So yeah, I'm fired up for the Big 12. Well, let's move on to the next game, which is Arkansas traveling to play Memphis. I put this on a list for a couple of reasons, Bear. Number one, I thought the Ole Miss Arkansas game was one of the least talked about games last weekend because of the other awesome games sucking the oxygen out of the
Mm-hmm.
room. But you're a strip fumble away at the 20-yard line from Arkansas going in there and up in the apple cart. And Talon Green looked absolutely electric all night long. 300 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. I just thought he was fantastic. And so big bounce back week for them. I think he's fully healthy. I don't know if you've seen anything different. I know he got banged up a little bit Saturday night. But then Memphis, man, the American is also a fascinating conference to me from a G5 perspective in that auto bid. Memphis going to be right in that hunt. Obviously, USF going to be a player in that even after their stumble against Miami last week. I was in Annapolis 2 weeks ago to watch Navy play. Love that team as well. I mean, I just think the American's a lot of fun. So what are your thoughts on this game and where you feel on this?
I like Arkansas here laying the points. I think this is almost too easy of a spot for people to kind of take Memphis and the points just because of Arkansas, the kind of the flat spot going to Notre Dame or having Notre Dame next week, coming off of that loss. But I think this team and with Pittman and obviously Bobby Petrino, they're going to score points. Memphis is better defensively than they've been, but I'm not sure they are as offensively as they have been in the past as well. Memphis is still a team that I actually have a bet on at plus 750 to make the college football playoff because that was a
Mm.
better price than it was to win the American. Just the way the schedule breaks down for Memphis in the AAC, I think they are a pretty good bet as opposed to Tulane. So I laid the points here with Arkansas. I think they get the win. I think they bounce back from an emotional loss because unlike like last year, they pulled the upset over Tennessee, and then Green was hurt in the game, and it just spiraled out of control. I think Pittman and that I think the foundation of that program and the type of guy, as much fire and pressure that Pittman is under, and maybe being on the hot seat, I think he feels really good about his team and the cohesiveness of it. So I think they bounce back and they put up a bunch of points on Memphis and come out with it.
I mean, there has to be nobody easier in the country to play for than Sam Pittman, right? Like, how can you not love that guy?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's the best. Okay, next one on the list. I love this battle for the Iron Skillet, SMU and TCU. Both teams, I think, with interesting propositions heading into this week. Number one, TCU kind of, nobody really talking about them. I feel like Josh Hoover, really good quarterback. Sonny Dykes can coach, man. And then SMU coming off the big year last year. I think Kevin Jennings is one of the more dynamic and exciting quarterbacks in America. Obviously, they have the stumble against Baylor and maybe one of the games of the year so far. That was like
Game they had no business losing. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was fantastic to watch. So where do you feel on this? How do you think this one ends up on Saturday?
I was surprised to see TCU as a 6.5 point favorite in this game. I don't know they deserve to be. I think it's more of an indication on the reflection of the injuries that SMU potentially has on the offensive side of the ball,
Mm-hmm.
in all of their skill positions right now. But I'm still not sure. Look, what do we know about TCU? They put up a bunch of points and blew out a bad North Carolina team. They deserve to be a 7 point favorite, close to a 7 point favorite in a rivalry game based on that. I don't think so. As long as Jennings is fine and good to go, I think Brett Lashley and that offense can kind of fill those spots on the offensive side of the ball and at the very least keep this rivalry game close.
How do you see them in the ACC race, SMU? I mean, do you think they have holes that are continuously exploitable, or do you think they're a real player in that race?
I don't think they're a real player this year. I think last year they were very fortunate with the schedule that they had in that conference.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you look at Georgia Tech with Tech getting that win over Clemson, that is a massive like trump card that they have in their resume now to have that win in the bank. I mean, I don't see. I mean, they have Miami coming to Dallas later in the year, but I don't think they're going to be able to match up with Miami in the trenches. I think last year obviously was great for them to get to the ACC title game and get to the college football playoff, but I don't see a repeat appearance of them making a serious run towards the ACC title this year.
In what seems to be a continuing theme for this season thus far, with former quarterbacks heading back to their old
Yeah,
institution, we have
everyone.
one just full of drama at the Palace this weekend with War Eagle heading to Norman to play Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold obviously coming back to see if he can't have lead a monster win for the Auburn program. And then look, man, Oklahoma with John Mateer has been a ton of fun. And Coach Arbuckle being there, I think obviously makes the transition really simple. Going to be an electric. Where do you sit on this? How do you feel on this? I thought the number felt bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah, I think that the fact they're hanging less than a touchdown under there feels like to me that Vegas is telling you that they think Auburn's the right side and they're comfortable going into this game thinking, oh, Oklahoma, Mateer, Heisman front runner, second choice or whatever. They already beat Michigan, blew out the Temple in the game that they should have. Hey, you bet Oklahoma, they win by 7, you're good. Yeah, I like Auburn here plus the points. I don't know if Mateer can make it through that schedule. It was like, I've never seen a schedule like this. And again, it's a product of conference expansion and Oklahoma just drawing the short end of the stick this year. But with every single one of their conference games, the team's ranked right now. That's ridiculous. So I worry about Mateer long term. If they
Mm-hmm.
continue to use him in the run game like they have so far, they're going to need Ott and another back maybe to step up and really give them some depth there and take some of the the running usage out of Mateer. But I like Auburn. I was Auburn over 7.5 wins entering the year. I think Jackson Arnold in this offense now with Singleton and Coleman at wide receiver, the running game that they have, they just went right up and down the field on Baylor in the opener. So they've already got one good road win, and Arnold is road tested there. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Auburn and Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold go in there and get a little bit of revenge and wind up beating Oklahoma this week. So I will take Auburn plus the points here.
I like that pick. One thing that has struck me about this Auburn team so far is they've got some personality. And they seem to like each other, which again, we can't quantify that, right? There's no metric for that, but they just seem a lot more
Helps
together than
the
they have been.
appearance of it helps at least.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that, being in Waco and winning that game on that opening Friday night was big and kind of spoke to their culture that they kind of hung in that and took that win home. So yeah, I like them. And to your point about John Mateer, I look at them a little bit like I look at Georgia Tech. Like he is the straw that stirs the drink for them right now, just like Haynes King is in Atlanta. And if they lose those guys, I'm very curious about how both of those squads end up looking. John Mateer's just got that kind of swag and followability 2 and 2, which is so huge. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of
And,
fun.
and being a Texas kid, he understands what being about being the quarterback in Oklahoma. He knows just in that region with the Oklahoma Texas rivalry and just how big of a deal that is. But yeah, with Auburn, before we move on to the next game, like last year, it was a combination of awful quarterback play and just close game
Mm-hmm.
ridiculousness, losing games. So like
Yep.
that's not a good combination. And this year so far, so good.
All right, let's circle back to the American. Big matchup for Tulane with Ole Miss this weekend. Trinidad Chambliss, one of the stories of the weekend last weekend, obviously in that Ole Miss Arkansas game, stepping in and playing fantastic. And then this Tulane team, man, you talk about found money with Jake Retzlaff. Like you lose Darren Manson in the transfer portal, and you're thinking maybe we're gonna have a big gap to fill. And I just think culturally, and I know the passing numbers haven't been outstanding, but I just like what Retzlaff brings to the table and his ability to run the football. I think this is a fascinating matchup. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Am I allowed to punt on a side here and just go over 61? Am I
Yes,
allowed to make up my own rules as I go along on your
yes,
show?
we love a total here, so I'm
Thank
all
you.
good with that.
I don't think that Ole Miss defense is anywhere near as good as they were a year ago,
Hmm.
losing so many guys to the league and whatever else. I think that whether it's Chambliss or
Austin
the other.
Simmons.
Thank you so very
Yep.
much. But I heard so much of his name last week. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I
Yeah.
completely spaced, but they're going to put up points regardless of who the quarterback is.
Hmm.
But however, I think Tulane with Retzlaff and the offense that they have, they showed last week against a decent ACC defense in Tulane in Duke rather that they could put up points as well. So I think this is going to be one of those typical Lane type shootouts here. I could see this being along the lines of like a 38-24 type of game, and that certainly will put it over 61. 38-24 is like minimum of what I think this wouldn't surprise me if you had this in the 40s v 30s as well.
Bear, my co-host has never seen a total that he didn't like, so he will love this counsel. There will be some action on that game now.
And I am not for me to come in and say I like an over that's a lot because I'm an under guy.
Yeah.
For me to like points is a rarity.
Okay, so this is spicy for me because it's Matt Rule year 3, right? Big game for Nebraska at home in Lincoln, hosting Michigan. I will be very frank with you in our preseason preview episode. I chose the Cornhuskers to be in Indy for the Big Ten title game as my big jump for the offseason, just because I had a lot of faith in what Matt Rule will do. And obviously, Dylan Raiola's got a ton of experience in the offense now. I just felt good about him. However, they were underwhelming against Cincinnati at Arrowhead in Kansas City, but I'm very interested to see them in this setting. I think this is an opportunity for them to put the flag in the ground a little bit. But how do you feel like things are going to go with Bryce Underwood, Michigan coming to town?
Well, this is again one of those like statement type wins. Like, can they finally get the monkey off their back? I'll just throw out all the terrible cliches there. Like last week, we saw Texas A&M, a team that hadn't won a road game against a ranked opponent in a
Yeah.
dozen years. Nebraska's lost 27 straight games against ranked teams. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't been a ranked team since 2016. Like every time they get one of these opportunities, it feels like they screw it up with a turnover or a penalty or special teams debacle. They just haven't been able to get a win like this. So we'll see ultimately what happens. I kind of like them here as well, and that concerns the hell out of me because, uh, as I said, we've seen this record before. But I am a Matt Rule fan. I think he's getting this program. They're never going to be what they were in
Uh,
the '80s and the '90s. It's just not
yeah.
going to happen again. But I have concerns about Michigan offensively. You look at what they did going on the road against Oklahoma. They don't have game breakers at wide receiver right now. Uh, I don't know if Justice Hayes is really like the guy at running back to be a massive difference maker. He had a big run to start the second half, but that was about it. Michigan's put up a bunch of points against a couple of overmatched opponents, but I think going on the road here at a hostile environment against a good defense and a team that kind of feels that sense of urgency to get a win like this to break through. Yeah, I'm with you here. I like the Huskers plus the points.
I like that. I like it. Yeah, this is one of those slates, Bear, where and you and I had emailed about this where I was like, this is a great slate. But I've had more than a couple people this week tell me, oh, it's not really that many great games this week. And I'm like, oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Go to a Saturday wedding or whatever you want to do, and
Exactly.
just completely miss it. There's a ton of
God.
intriguing games. There may only be 3 ranked versus ranked games, but there are a ton of intriguing games on the schedule.
So many intriguing ones. And I don't even have Civil War and the Apple Cup on the list today, which feels sacrilegious on my part. But I feel like the disparity between those programs and those 4 games is so big, it felt like a travesty to try and pick them. But next one is another great one, I think, with South Carolina getting dump truck last weekend, losing to Lenore's Sellers, and then having to go to the other Columbia and play a Mizzou team that is feeling great about itself. Bo Prabula has looked outstanding.
He has, and there's certainly some people now asking the question as to why wasn't Bo Perula playing at Penn State, and why were they playing Drew Aller? Because he certainly
Mm,
has looked the part
yeah.
since taking over in Como. I like them here. If you could find a 10.5, I would lay it. Look, I don't know if Sellers is going to play or not, but even with him in the lineup, like you look at what they did in that opener against Virginia Tech, they had the first scripted drive they scored, they had a punt return, and then a bomb late in the game. And then they had another couple of punt returns against, and then last week it just kind of came right back down to earth. Like I was an under guy on South Carolina entering the year, even after the win, where everyone was kind of like, "Oh, what do you feel? What do you think? What do you think now?" And I think
Yeah.
you're an under 7.5 type of team, and I think
Yeah.
they're going to go on the road. And Missouri might be one of those teams that you're looking to fade and you're looking to question how good they are because of the competition that they played. And they came back from down in the, I think it was down in the fourth quarter against Kansas, got
Kansas.
that
Yep.
late cover, but they dominated that game statistically in terms of yardage. I think Missouri might be better than what the opinion of them might be, just because of a couple of wins against a couple of really bad teams. So yeah, I laid the 10.5 here with Missouri against South Carolina, and hopefully for my South Carolina under bet, Missouri will actually just at least get that win for me.
Yeah, I look if you just go on feel, right, on eye test what you've seen through this first month of the season thus far, South Carolina don't look right. And
Yeah,
whether that's Mike Shula's offensive game plan, whatever it may be, right? They just look like Lenore Sellers has to be Superman and everybody has to hang on the cape. And if he's not that, they're out. And on the flip side, man, Mizzou just looks like they play for each other. They're explosive. They can get vertical real quick. Prabula's so difficult to defend, and you got to leave a guy in the box. All the things, right? And so it's real interesting.
and they got a guy in Coach Drink who is not afraid to step on your neck
Yeah,
and run up the score and keep the alumni happy, if you know what I mean.
that's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, let's go to this one, Bear. I know you have keen eyes on this one with your alma mater hosting hated rival Florida this weekend. I will be very, very open and transparent with you. The only reason this is on the list is because you are on the show today.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Because I think Miami is going to walk a mud hole in Florida and walk it dry. Florida seems like a mess. Miami's roster construction is outstanding. I think nationally we should all be talking about Malachi Tony more. I mean, what an exciting kid to watch. And Carson Beck, when clean, man, he can really deal it. And that offensive line has kept him upright and able to see the field. And they're going to be a weapon, I think.
It's funny you mentioned Malachi Tony and Josh Moore as well. The first game of the year, the Notre Dame game, the books, fan Kings. I was combining both of them.
Yeah.
DraftKings, FanDuel, both had like promos and profit boosts and such for those games, and I was ready to hop in and bet Malachi Tony first time, anytime touchdown
Yeah.
for Miami, and that would have been a massive number. But unfortunately, neither book listed him as a potential touchdown scorer. Okay, so they scooped the pot on that prop, which was really nice because that was being as close to the Miami program as I am. I had heard the reports
Yeah.
about Tony and Moore and how much of a factor that they were going to be. So that was something early in the year I was looking to be able to capitalize on. And the information was correct. And unfortunately, we couldn't take full advantage of it. But this game this is the old Nick Saban rat poison type game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got a team in Florida who's got one foot in the grave, but they just need to be nudged and they're going to fall face down in it. But this is a Miami team that before the year started, that people were questioning, oh, is Carson Beck really that good? Oh, but they got Mario Cristobal. He'll blow some games. Yeah, we've heard this with Miami before. And again, the guys I had spoken to and in the program and have known for a long time were swearing to me that that we are going to be legit good is what is the exact quote that I was told to relay. And that's what I have been saying. We are going to be legit good this year. And I think what we've seen so far is you can make a case that they are the most complete team in college football. And they've gone a little bit different way in building their roster and using the portal to bring a transfer guy and a quarterback and building up front in the trenches. I think this is a lower scoring game because, look, as bad as Florida was on offense last week, they very easily could have won that game at LSU. And if Lagway throws 2 picks, maybe they win the game. But
Yeah.
offensively, I think the injuries they have at receiver are an issue. I think offensive line potentially could be an issue holding up against Bain and Messidor, who have been unblockable so far. The pessimist, the worry wart in me feels like this could be a closer game just because you've got Florida recruiting hotbed type of game. Last stand could potentially be closer. The one bet I would make in this game is someone who's fully invested in Miami futures would be just Florida team total under 21.5. I think of all things in this game, I am pretty sure that the Gators are not going to score more than 3 touchdowns against what is a really good, aggressive, and well-schooled Miami front. Amazing the difference a year makes. You kind of bring in a new defensive coordinator and Corey Heatherman. You bring in a secondary now with guys who can cover and make plays and tackle, and a linebacker in Torres who's in good possession. Night and day. I see Miami probably winning this game by around 7 to 10 points, but at the same time, the Florida defense is still pretty good. And I think they're going to keep them in this game for a while. So Florida under 21.5. Again, I'm making up the rules as I go along on your show.
I'm totally okay with that.
There's my play on that game.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. All right. I saw an excellent tweet this week, Bear. I can't remember if it was a beat writer for Illinois or Indiana that said, Illinois, Indiana matters once every 50 years, and this is the one. But yeah, both teams, obviously, early here in the season in the Big Ten race are going to be players. Indiana coming off the big year last year. Fernando Mendoza, great transfer ad. How do you feel about this? Do you think the Fighting Illini go into Memorial Stadium and take care of business, or do you think it's a good day for the Hoosiers?
Well, I am not one of those guys who was buying Illinois going into the year, and they beat me at Duke with the Blue Devils turning it over 5 times, and then they beat me last week with a 10-0 halftime lead, and then scored 4 touchdowns in the third and fourth quarter to get the cover. I think that this game reminds me a lot. I don't know if you remember the game last year when Big Noon Kickoff went to Bloomington against Nebraska. It was a close spread. And everyone's like, oh, I like Nebraska on the road. Nebraska going there. Indiana hasn't played anyone. And Indiana just absolutely put it on them. I could see that being the case here in this game. I think defensively, Indiana is much better than Illinois. I think if you watch that Illinois-Duke game on the road, at least the first half before Duke gave them the game away with all those turnovers, the Duke defensive line was in that backfield quite a bit. So I think the Illini have some problems on the offensive line. I would lay the points here with Indiana minus 4.5. I saw some 5s out there, but this feels like, again, one of those numbers that's a little bit higher than you might think it would have, could have, should have be. And that leads me to believe that Vegas is comfortable with the liability on Illinois as an underdog. That I think the Illini, by the time Saturday rolls around, is going to be one of those underdogs with fleas that everyone's going to be on, and
Yeah.
might not work out well. So look, they can go there and win. If they go there and win, and they beat USC next week at home, my tune can be completely changed on Illinois because they'll finally will have beaten a couple of teams that were in their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's going to be a good one. All right. Last one of the day. Arizona State, the Sun Devils heading to Waco to play Baylor. Baylor, a home favorite. Arizona State, obviously, with a very disappointing loss in Starkville a couple weeks back. And then look, man, Sawyer Robertson and Baylor, they can score seemingly at will. The problem has been Dave Aranda's defense can't stop a nosebleed thus far this season. So how you feel on this one?
Yeah, this feels like an over to me as well. I can make a really good case for both sides here. Both of them obviously have lost to a middling, well, I shouldn't say middling. Mississippi State maybe middling to bottom SEC team, and Auburn potentially an upper echelon SEC team. But I wonder as the year goes on, like Arizona State kind of struggled last week. Maybe it was just kind of a little bit of a flat spot off of the loss and knowing that they had the road game against Baylor, and they just kind of did what they needed to do to win that game against an overmatched opponent last week. But I think as the year goes on, you're going to need someone other than Levitt kind of be the one man show to and his wide receiver calling up. They're going to miss Scadaboo as
Mm-hmm.
that year goes on. This feels like one of the like a 38-35 type game, last team with the ball because like you said, Robertson in that offense has been very impressive, and I think they have been more exposed on defense with the running game. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that will help them a little bit here. We'll see if ASU can find a running game here, but I think at home Baylor should get this win. I'm not necessarily super high on ASU, and I think by the end of last year Baylor was probably the best team in that league. And I think with Robertson, they're a completely different team. So if you're looking aside, I would probably lay the 2.5 with Baylor, but I feel pretty good. Unfortunately, again, wow, I don't even know myself anymore. I'm gonna have to look in the mirror and slap myself in the face for liking another over here.
Love it. Yeah. Oh, my co-host is going to be all over this. We're talking totals. This is outstanding. Well, look, Bear, it's always great to see you. We always love getting your counsel on this stuff. Please tell
Hey,
our
hey, am I
listeners.
am I, am I allowed to ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have more questions about Georgia after last week than you did going into that game in Knoxville?
Man, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I had told so many people that would listen that I thought the best unit going into that game last weekend that you could hang your hat on was Georgia's defense. And so for Tennessee to go out and just really run all over them, you start to go, well, wait a minute, what's going to happen here? The flip side of that is for Gunnar Stockton, that offense to come out and do what they did in that environment, I think you start going like, well, wait, now we can maybe win in a shootout, which we didn't think was going to be a
Mhm.
possibility before. And so I just think it kind of opens up the road for them in a lot of ways for what they can become. I always have faith in Kirby to figure things out. And I think the important thing about this group is he likes them. And you can tell he likes them. I thought last year he looked as haggard as he's ever looked by the end of the year. I think that team exhausted him. And this year he looks the exact opposite. He looks re-energized. I think it's a group that gets along, which again, can't quantify it. They just eye test wise look like they are playing for each other. I don't think you win a game like that in Knoxville if you aren't, right? The other thing, Bear, that I'll tell you is for years and years and years, Georgia was the you should have won program. What everybody was telling Tennessee Monday at the
Yep.
water cooler. Y'all should have won Saturday.
Yep.
And now they have flipped the script and are the y'all should have lost. Well, hey, if you're going to be on one side of the ledger or the other, you want to be on the y'all should have lost program side of the ledger. So big changes culturally there.
Okay, Kirby even said it on the field after the game, like we shouldn't have won today. But I think what you said about him really liking this team, I think that radiated out of him
Mm-hmm.
during that post game interview that he's got a group of guys that he likes. Now, look, I think he probably knows that he's got some issues in the back seven, and maybe moving forward in the SEC when you start facing some offenses and some potentially better quarterbacks, Joey Aguilar in that league, that maybe they will have some problems. But good for them for having an off week this week to kind of come back down to earth off of that game, and then we'll see. Remember last year that game in Tuscaloosa was one where Milroe and Ryan Williams made hay and threw all over them, and we'll see if they're able to shore some things up defensively to keep Simpson and Ryan Williams from doing that next week. Because it looks like, again, you don't want to put the cart before the horse, that maybe that game in Tallahassee opened the season for Alabama might have just been a one-off, just a terrible situation where Florida State, coming off the 2-10 season, just had that game circled and came out and played lights out and caught Alabama kind of shell-shocked, and that the Tide might still be something to be reckoned with as the year goes on. But yeah, I was surprised at how poor the Georgia defense played last week.
Hmm.
Hopefully, moving forward, they can play better. But I think at the same time, I was heard about the whole Georgia's going to be better off without Carson Beck at quarterback. It'll be just
Yeah.
fine with Stock. And I was like, yeah, you might want to pump the brakes on that. I mean, prior to last year, Beck was the Heisman front runner and like
Yeah.
favorite to go like #1 in the draft. So you might want to just pump the brakes. And that fourth down throw
Ooh.
that he made to Humphreys in the catch, just that's one of those plays that just won't be hard to file that one away in the back of the mind and be like that. That is a season altering, narrative altering type of change, because now you got a team that you're going to have to lose 3 times to
Yeah.
miss the playoff.
Yeah.
And I know they got Bama at home, and I know they got Texas at home, but you feel a whole lot better about Texas coming in now to between the hedges there as you did early in the year. So I think, as shaky as that defense might be, they're in pretty good shape to make the playoff.
Yeah. After that fourth down throw, I texted my buddy, and all I wrote was brass balls. I mean, that was a big time throw in a hostile environment. And the other piece is London Humphrey, man, what a catch! I mean, that angle and those stakes, just unreal. Well, look, Bear, before you go, tell our listeners how they can support you and follow you, please.
Well, we obviously big noon kickoff Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern time. This week will be in Utah, Salt Lake, Texas Tech, Utah. So make sure you tune in for that. And then, of course, Bear Bets Pod. We got like 4 of them now, and they're kind of turned into like digital TV shows. So make sure you hop on our YouTube channel if you've got time to sit down and watch. That would be great. If not, Apple, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast, or is always the safe way to go. They say that's how I'm like old school. I'm like the get off your lawn guy. Like, I don't have time to sit down in front of the YouTube channel and watch a pod. Like, I'm cooking, cleaning, driving around, running errands. I'll just throw them on that way. But our graphic package is great. Our new look studio is great, and we got 4 of them now every week. Monday we have kind of the weekend rewind, kind of quick look ahead towards the week. Thursday we've got the NFL show and the college football show, and then Friday we've got Bruce and the Bear, where we just kind of late breaking news, anything that we want to react to from what we've heard throughout the week. Looking forward to the next day, and that's a short that's like 25, 30 minutes tops. So that's like a good quick listen to get you up to speed on what to expect on Saturday. So appreciate you, everybody, there for checking us out, and rate, review, subscribe wherever you want to take us in.
Yeah, and also don't fail to tune in for Bears soccer knowledge as well. Okay, he'll give you a little sprinkle every now and then. I got a kid that's super into the Prem, so I'm tuned into that now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to date our recording right now and tell you that we are about an hour or so away from from a European night at Anfield with Atletico Madrid coming into to Liverpool, and I will be locked into that as soon as I get done with a couple more obligations that I have. So yeah, nothing better than Champions League, and so far Liverpool uh, kind of pulling a couple late out of the you know what, but Burnley didn't play to win the other day. They played for 0-0. And that's what happens when you play for 0-0. You give up a stoppage time penalty and you lose.
That's it. That's it, brother. Well, look, Bear, it's always great to see you. Thank you for being so generous with your time, and safe travels this weekend. Okay.
Absolutely appreciate it anytime.